Friends, before we dive in, I want to extend an invitation into something sacred that could be part of your unfolding. I'm hosting 3 Angel Reiki Schools upcoming in person September 19th, November 7th, January 23rd. Those are all the dates when they start. When you join, you don't just receive one certification, you're initiated into 3 in the Angel Reiki School: mediumship, energy healing, and becoming an angel messenger yourself. This is a one-stop sanctuary where all of your spiritual gifts are activated and grown together, your unique gifts. People are called to this program for so many reasons. Some are searching for a second career that is deeply fulfilling, one where they can witness lives transformed through the creative, soul-led work that they're putting out into the world, one that starts with the Angel Reiki School. Others feel the longing to create an income that supports the life they've always dreamed of: more time freedom, the ability to take family vacations, to be there walking their children to school and be there when they get home from school, to make the memories that matter most in this life. I often remind my students to say out loud, I am a high 6-figure angel medium. Time and time again, they come back to share how claiming that vision and going through the Angel Reiki School has opened new doors to financial abundance, radiant joy, and the freedom to live life on their terms. Yes, it does take devotion to build your own business, but the Angel Reiki School is where you begin. You might not yet understand why your soul is being pulled here, but once you step in, I promise you'll feel it. The remembering, the recognition, the sense of coming home. And because the Angel Reiki School weekends are so intimate, so wonderful, alumni love coming back, that you don't have to, but they love the energy so incredibly much. They asked to come back. So we did include an alumni option where you can. But because the Angel Reiki School weekends are so intimate, half of our in-person dates sell out. So if you feel that stirring in your heart, trust it. Save your space now. I keep our groups small on purpose so that I get to know every single one of you well, and join us for one of the upcoming Angel Reiki School weekends. Remember, that's in September, November, or January. All of them start on a Friday evening at 6 p.m. and all of them end by Sunday, somewhere in between 12 to 2. You can register at theangelmedium.com/get certified. Step into the Angel Reiki School today and begin to embody your spiritual gifts to the fullest expression. Everyone who joins the Angel Reiki School gets access to both the online and in-person school. Join today, theangelmedium.com. Now, here's today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancius. And friends, today we're here with Ellen Wier. If you've ever seen her on the Canes award-winning documentary Beyond the Grave from 2023, she's got the book Waking Up in Heaven, Living with Purpose through Afterlife Wisdom. Ellen and I met at a conference recently, and it was the wildest thing. So I'm just going to tell this story because here I am, and actually, I wasn't planning on going. So here's the deal. My hotel that I normally have all of my events at, probably 5 to 7 a year, I always work with the same person who books and coordinates all of the events. And when you do events like this, they send you a contract. You have to sign the contract, send it back, and they become like your friend, right? Because they're like, ooh, what is this spirit? Maybe I want to do this spiritual women's retreat. And she calls me up one day and she goes, Julie, do you know that this is happening at our hotel? It's this near-death conference. It's this international thing. And I was like, oh, do they hold it there every year? And she's like, no, like it's just here this year. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll look into it. And then I get a call from a friend, Dr. Amy Robbins, who also has like a big podcast. She lives in Chicago, and we get lunch, like maybe once a quarter, we talk once a month. And she calls and she's like, I think we're supposed to go to this. And I'm like, okay, spirit, I'll be there. And the dilemma within myself was I was sitting there thinking to myself, oh, I need to spend time researching the books that are coming out this fall, who I want to have on the podcast. It's going to take, a good week to kind of search through who we really want to have on for what intention. And Spirit's like, just go to this near-death conference. So I go and I'm blown away, because it is all of the people that I need to have on the podcast. These aren't just people who have had near-death experiences. It's the scientists and the researchers at world-renowned universities that are studying this and have been studying this for 50 years. Okay, so fast forward to how I meet Ellen. I'm in this one breakout session where you're going to see the woman, the researcher behind the telepathy tapes, Diane Powell, Hennessy Powell. And she's going to come on the show too. We've already got her booked and everything. I'm just waiting. Everybody's kind of really eager for this breakout. And I go and I find my space right up front. I'm an upfront person. Like if you're going to be in a classroom, I really want to be upfront. I want to be listening. I want to be center. I want to be engaged. So I'm up front, and there's just something that happens with soul's energies where spirit will be like, go talk to that person. And it doesn't happen all the time. So when it does happen, you're like, okay, need to listen to this. So Ned was right in front of me, and he had this hat on, and Spirit's like, talk to him. Because Ned was kind of looking around. He's looking this way. He's looking this way. He's just kind of fidgety. And Spirit's like, talk to him. Talk to him. So I start talking to him, and then this other woman comes over and she sits down. And then we all start having this conversation. And I'm not good at like kind of initiating get-togethers. I don't feel that I am. It's hard for me, but I moved around a lot. And so I have that tool from back in the day. And Spirit goes, just ask them if they want to go and grab dinner that night. Amy had left. I didn't have anybody to have dinner with. And so I was like, would you guys want to go get dinner, in between the breakouts? And they're like, yeah, that would be so fun. And Ned's like, can I invite my friends? I'm like, absolutely. The more, the merrier. I am a more, the merrier person. Whenever I do have get-togethers, I put that on all the invites. The more, the merrier. You guys were all texting back and forth, and they're like, let's meet at this time in the lobby. And I'm like, okay, well that, I was ready, but then you guys weren't. And so I was like, I'll go over to the bookstore. I wanted to get a signature from Raymond Moody, and then I'll come back and meet you guys. So I did that. And for people who don't know, Ellen, tell them who Raymond Moody is.
Oh, he's like the grandfather of all the research into near-death experiences, just a magical scientist and researcher.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I meet you guys in the lobby, and then we get into these two cars, and the cars kind of pass each other at one point, rolled down, and you're dancing in the back and I'm dancing in the front of this other car. And we're like, oh yeah, this is my soul sister.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh my gosh, we just had a blast the entire weekend.
we did. I just showed up actually to that group. I wasn't one on the text thread. Did you know that? They planned to go, and then I just last minute got invited. They said, hey, do you want to join? I said, yes. So I just literally 5 minutes before I met you, I was invited to that dinner.
Oh my gosh. And it was such a great group. It was like everybody with the biggest stories and like biggest YouTube channels and groups and podcasts. And it was like heaven to be around this table of 8 or 9 souls that are
Yes.
just so connected.
The
And it was,
conversations were
yeah,
amazing. It was like we're
amazing.
talking about, stepping into a higher frequency life together. We're talking about mystical, magical experiences that happen to each of us. Yeah, it was fantastic. And there were people giving kind of blessings and readings and angel messages. It was great.
So, you have one of the most powerful stories. Waking Up in Heaven is your book that everybody should get and should read. I wonder if you could walk people through your experience of what happened and what you saw on the other side.
Well, I was a 12-year-old girl. I love to ride horses, and I was taking my first Western lesson after riding English for a while. And the cinch slipped during the lesson, so the saddle slipped, and I fell off the horse, and the horse got spooked and kicked me in the temple. So as a 12-year-old kid, I was like taken to the local hospital in Texas and then sent to a bigger hospital in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And my parents were told to, on the fourth or fifth day, the doctor said, there's really not much we can do. She's pretty deeply in the coma. Why don't you try playing some movies, her favorite movies at the bedside? Maybe you'll get through. Maybe something will happen. Talk to her. So during the time of the ICU when my parents were there, I imagine they were talking to me. But whenever they couldn't be there, they put on movies, like home movies and stuff like that. And on this particular day, they picked a Disney movie that was like 90% classical music. And that plays into the story because music is what woke me up. So what I experienced was I was kind of on a raft. It was a little bit like this. I would call it a raft. It's like a wooden structure, a wooden platform. It felt like it had like these giant logs, not just this size. It was like giant. And Jesus was in front of me, and there was a man to my left that was bald and had long brown robes and bare feet, and I felt very, very safe. I was taken from that place into a light realm where there were like different colored trees, and there was music, and it was very bright, and it was white, and just absolute magic. I don't know how long I was in that realm, but then I was taken into the golden light realm, which is to me like the heart of this experience. I had no body. There was no one way to get there. It was all love. There was no judgment, complete, total connection to source. I felt this fullness around me, like this weighted kind of blanket energy. And then I just became the love. I became this golden light. And it was so beautiful and peaceful and whole and loving and absolute like fullness of love. And I could have been there for lifetimes. Honestly, it felt like that's where I belonged. And it felt like this was the illusion. But I was taken back to the raft, I guess you could call it. And Jesus communicated through his thoughts. And I was given the choice to either live or stay in heaven. And I wanted to stay at first. I did. I felt so whole, but I was shown like the life of my father if I were to stay. And everything was okay. There was no one answer. I mean, I try to explain this like I wasn't compelled to do something or convinced or anything. There was no right or wrong. I could have chosen either way, and I was told it would be okay. But I was shown that he wouldn't live up to his like path. So my soul chose. My soul just made a choice in that moment that I would live. And that's when I was given gratitude, like so much gratitude to get to come back here. And I knew that living was a gift and that not everybody gets to do it. And we are here for a reason. And everything that we come to do is like purposeful and meaningful. This is our place for expansion. And so I made a vow in that moment that I would come back and I would heal people with music. And I said that I would give gratitude every day for every experience in my life because I knew it's an opportunity to get closer to that God energy. And that's when it went dark, and I saw like music notes in the darkness on a staff, but I couldn't hear anything. And I just watched the music notes, and then they went through me. It's like the staff just went through me, and I heard this little tiny pinprick of sound that was barely audible, like you could really barely hear it. And then I focused everything in my being on that sound. Every single ounce of my energy went into that. And I pulled it closer. I think now I was pulling myself into my body through music, but it was the music of the movie. And so I connected to the music until it became really, really loud in my head. And then I opened my eyes and there I was. And I felt slipped in and out of consciousness. And the rest of my life has been dedicated to fulfilling the vow that I made in the coma. And that's how I woke up. And it was beautiful and wonderful. And I'm grateful to be here because the work I do takes people to that place too. And that's, I think, what I'm really here to do.
Yeah. Talk about that purpose, and what is that purpose? I think that there's a billion ways to describe it, but I often tell people, like when I'm doing a reading, you could say the words marriage or birth or divorce and know what they mean, but you can also read vibrations. So the more that you've been through, the vibration of it without hearing the word that defines it. And I'm interested in that vibrational frequency that you were in on the other side. I think that sometimes when we return to that frequency, it's encoded in a way with a lot of information. Sometimes you could wake up from a dream that you have where you're almost on the other side and you got some information. But if you go back to the dream, you're going back to the vibration of it and you're able to extract more information.
Yeah. In fact, I take myself back there every time I do this work. And anytime that I remember it and I recount the story, I'm in it again. And so it's just, there's a fullness, there's a warmth, it's more of an experience than it is a place. And there's a no needing to know anything, but knowing everything at once, if that makes sense. So all the human stuff that we get sidetracked with, our thoughts that honestly can spiral, can take us into story, can create pattern. These are gone. Like we don't have to be in that. And that's part of, I think, our journey here is to move through these thought process to understand the patterns and to use the mind as a tool and a conduit for higher knowing without getting wrapped into the everyday patterns and stories that we tell ourselves. Like, don't believe what you think kind of thing. But the frequency and feeling of that experience is everything to me. And the part about purpose that you ask, I'm very, very grateful to have been able to identify and my soul spoke my purpose. And I am grateful for that because now that's my barometer for everything that I do. Like, does it feel like the energy of the other side? Does it hold that same frequency? I'm going to add it to my practice. And that's a lot about what my book is about, is how these different modalities came into my practice. I use crystal singing bowls. I use toning. I use visualization, classical music journeys, methods that I learned in grad school for psychology. I use all of these because they're in alignment with that feeling. And I know if I feel the same frequency, then I use it in my work. And it's the same for messages when they come through. If it comes through with a certain energy and frequency, I'm like, okay, that's a message that needs to be shared.
Yeah, 100%. There's a couple of questions that I have. So when you were on the other side and you were kind of first greeted, Jesus was on one side and then there was a gentleman on the other side. Was that gentleman your guide? And did you get to have some time with him? And how did he direct you?
Jesus was in front of me in very simple robes, right? And this man was to my left, and I didn't know who he was at the time. I felt very safe and protected, but I found out later in life who he was. And I believe he was Buddha. And that, it was beautiful because I believe that that became my training on how to get people into presence. So he became a major part of my education later in life. And when I went to grad school for music therapy and psychology, I got a dual master's in transpersonal psychology. I went to a school that had originally been founded as a Buddhist school. And even though it was fully accredited and everything, they still had the practice of meditating. And so when I went to school, I was walking up to my meditation class one of the first weeks, and I saw a depiction of him. He's bald and thinner than what I knew Buddha to be, so I didn't recognize that, and long brown robes and bare feet. And so I learned meditation, how to still the mind, how to release negative thoughts. It's crucial for us, like to release negative thoughts so that we don't stay stuck in the loop of our mind, because the filter of the mind, and they talked about this at the International Association for Near-Death Studies. One of the major researchers got up and talked about how there's little brainwave activity when they've actually studied near-death experiences. They don't see a lot of brainwave activity. So this is pretty good indication that it's not happening in the mind. It's happening outside of the mind.
Let's break that down for people, because I think that is just so powerful, because to me, it proves God's existence. It proves the existence of the other side. So what Ellen just said here is that, a lot of scientists say the consciousness is within the brain. And when you pass away, the brain turns off and is not active, and so you shouldn't be able to see anything, hear anything, have any experience. But as researchers have studied, literally, I think it's like hundreds of thousands of stories of near-death experiences over the last 50 years. They find, that the brain is actually not active at all. The brain is not active, and yet the person is still seeing, hearing, having experiences.
Yeah. That was a cool study they referenced. They said that they were studying a group that had been given like the shock treatments to the heart, right? And they know that they have 3 minutes or something, or 30 seconds or some amount of time, I don't even know, like between the shocks, so they could monitor brainwave activity. So this researcher was monitoring brainwave activity. Well, 50% of them had like a heightened electrical activity, and then the other 50% didn't. But what's interesting is the ones that had the near-death experience were the ones that did not have the heightened activity in the brain during that time. And the ones that came back to talk about it, validated that. So it was just interesting. There is a greater consciousness that we're exploring, and we see it in our work when we have workshops, because people will have never met each other and will have the same imagery come through, like a little white dog with a red bow on its neck. Very, very specific imagery in this group I was working with. And these two women were like, well, this little white dog came through. And the other one was like, yeah, and with a red bow on its neck. Yeah, I saw that same dog. And then a man across the circle pulled out the picture of his dog, and he said he had come that night because he wanted to know that the dog was well, that it was taken care of after passing. And it was just beautiful. But this kind of thing happens all the time. We're connecting to something greater. And they say that the near-death experiencers have the opportunity that filter is removed from the mind. The mind can really hold us in patterns of not healing, of like fear. And if we are able to remove the filter and connect with the light more deeply, we can connect to that purpose. We can remember that we are loved. And that's what my work really does. Like that's where people go. Like they go to the light. They receive messages. They see angels. They see, But yes, exactly. Like it's all about the mind in a lot of ways. So that's where Buddha came in. Like I learned how to like release negative thoughts, replace them with positive thoughts. I learned the power of thinking, right? And that's how that guide came through for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful soul. I just want to take a moment and say I am so excited to share something truly sacred with you. This October, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we'll gather for the Women's Retreat. 3 days of deep rejuvenation, angelic connection, and soul remembrance. If you've been feeling disconnected, unsure of your future, or longing for something more, this retreat was created just for you. Imagine stepping away from the weight of daily life into an energetic sanctuary where you're held, supported, and guided back to the truth of who you are. Here you'll laugh, release, and reconnect with your soul's deepest yearnings. This is your time to reconnect with your angels and awaken to the next chapter of your journey. And because I never want finances to stand in the way of a retreat, I've created a scholarship option just for this retreat. If your heart is called, this space, friends, I promise it's waiting just for you. Come join us at theangelmedium.com/retreat. Say yes to your soul. Say yes to your angels. Say yes to this retreat. Questions? Email me at julie@theangelmedium.com. And now here we go back into the show. So talk to people about you met this wonderful just soulmate of yours. You guys got married and you guys are experiencing some health challenges, which I think you and I just connected on so deeply because of everything that I've been going through this year. Talk a little bit about that.
Right 2 weeks after our sacred ceremony, and we've known each other for 5 years and been together for 5 years and wanted to celebrate our love in front of our community. And we got that opportunity last October. But a couple weeks later, he had an injury on the soccer field and was given some medication so that we could go on a little celebration cruise, right? And it caused brain damage. And so he forgot who he was, kind of. He couldn't really access love. He was very angry. His kind of personality changed because of the brain injury. He had tremors. He forgot who people were. It was a very confusing time for us. And my recovery through my brain injury kind of helped me prepare for this in a weird way. And also my training at Naropa, when I went to school, that training was with people who had brain injuries. That was my practicum, one of my practicums. And so I knew this was part of recovery, but nothing can really prepare you for living in it. And so it's been 10 months. He had a back and neck injury as well from a chiropractic adjustment that went bad. And that neck injury has really changed his life too. And so he's been dealing with a lot of pain. He's getting better slowly, but of course, witnessing and walking alongside someone with that you're reminded of all these lessons of the power of the mind, the power of our thinking as we go through this. And then the choice that he continually makes to show up, to do the work. He has his down days, but then he steps back in, that dedication, that perseverance that we're building, right? This is our journey because we do spiritual work together and we always have for others. So this is our path.
What I think is really fascinating is, and I don't know if you've gotten this at all, is that, so I had a vocal injury a couple of years ago, a vocal disorder that popped up. And I remember being at the grocery store and somebody coming up, another healer, and saying, if you were really doing your work, that wouldn't have occurred. And somebody coming in this year and saying, if you could really do the energy healing to the top degree, your daughter wouldn't be going through this. And it hurt so bad, but I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed on it. And the angels said something very, very specific, which is there are a lot of people out there, healers, who I think are simply vibration holders, right? They operate in this very, very high vibrational frequency, higher than most of us, because they're not tuned in to the present day. Not to talk negatively at all, but there were a lot of spiritual healers back in the day who weren't around their families, right? Even Matthew McConaughey, when he went to write Green Lights, and I adore that man to no end.
Yeah.
I think he took 3 months away from his family, rented a place just so that he could not have any interruptions and just get the work done. And Spirit said, there are so many women out there that compare themselves to male vibration holders within the world, that they go, that's what I want. That's what I want to be. And yet women are so frustrated because they're not able to get to that point, because we are the ones caring for everybody, doing all of the work, really being present in the day-to-day, living in the day-to-day. And Spirit said there's a very big difference between vibration holder healers
Yeah.
and messengers. You cannot be a messenger unless you're willing to go through life. And to my point before, what I was saying, go through and have these experiences that allow you to read the vibrations and also show others the way forward. Like you wouldn't have been able in your story of passing to show others the way forward had you not gone through it yourself.
A lot of people say that, well, have you done the spiritual work on him? And it's not that simple, right? We sometimes enter into contracts, and I believe, I don't know what he believes, but I believe that we entered into a contract to go through this together in this lifetime. And we haven't gotten to live many lifetimes together. We've had maybe 9. Like, I think this is our 9th one that I've been told about. And so it's, we have a very, very sacred role and bond to do some spiritual work together. I really believe that. But like to tell people if they'd been doing their work that these things wouldn't happen, it's just, it's a very difficult thing to hear when you're going through things, but it's also, it's not true. Like I love the idea of acting as if I chose this, right? And so I don't, maybe Neil has a hard time. He's like, I don't know how I could ever have chosen this, right? But then when you're in it, it doesn't, we can't always see it, right? We can't always see it. But if we just even act as if we chose it, then we can start to be open to whatever good things might be coming through. And so that practice, I learned that from Jack Canfield and my work with him, but that's something that I really want to hold on to today. And, it's still good days and bad days for his recovery. And like we go through cycles of feeling like, oh, this is getting better. And then feeling like it's never going to end, feeling hopeless. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, especially if you have long-term injury or deal with chronic pain. Like these are things that we have a choice in every moment. Like, how are we going to respond to this? And what is it going to bring, right?
And I felt so much when we were just sitting and talking at dinner that night that we share a similar energy in that I could see this complete vision of Neil having this full and complete healing, and you guys doing couples work and working with couples in big groups and speaking on stages, and him using his story to help other people find their way through tough times as well.
Yes.
And I think that, when people go, oh, well, aren't you doing your healing on him? Or, aren't you doing the healing work on yourself? The healing work is actually being here and going through the experience.
Yeah.
And that's not easy for people to do. And I think it's one of the hardest things in life is to actually hold on to the presence
Yeah.
as you're going through the thing itself. That is the work. And you're
That is
doing
the work.
healing work along the way. But if you're just doing healing work and bypassing what's actually happening, like
Yeah.
you're bypassing life.
Yes. And this idea of the healer being external to ourselves is another thing. And sometimes these experiences are meant to show us that we can access the healer within without going through someone else. And Neil hasn't come to me too much for like to ask me for healing, to sit with the bowls yet. And I know that that's something that's because he's connecting with his own healer through this. And like that's what in reality, when I work with someone and they, maybe their pain shifts or goes away or they have a breakthrough, they have this moment of connecting with the other side, it's not me, it's them. It's them doing it. It's just me being able to have the gift of sitting there with them and doing what I do that gives them the container that they can bypass that filter in their mind and go directly to the healer that they are. Right? So it's all about that presence coming through, that God presence within us that we don't often get to access because things get in the way.
I had this vision last night, and we've got this dinner table like text thread, and it's been like so magnificent. But
Yes.
somebody put through a text message about dreams today. I think it was Stephanie.
Yeah.
And I wrote back and I was like, oh my God, I had this dream last night about kind of being in another world and that we live with angels among us as if they're our friends. But I
Oh,
had another piece to that where we would just sit with angels in this other world and the way that we manifested. And I could actually see you there doing this. Like you were sitting with your angels, just very much like on the floor, like crossed legs, just with your hands down. But you were just in this very high vibrational oneness. And the way that you were manifesting is just by raising your vibration out. And it was like you were this miniature sun just sitting with your angels. And the energy was going out so far. And it was just like gently tapping what it needed to tap. And it would bring it through these like rays of sunshine back down into your energy. And that's how you would manifest. And then I woke up and I was like, oh my God, that's how Ellen really manifests in real life. You have to tell people the story of like getting the call to do the documentary, doing the
oh,
documentary, and then, oh my God, Ellen, you manifested this. And it like, didn't it win in Cannes or it was
yeah,
nominated
yeah.
in
It won
Cannes?
it won best in a best paranormal film at the Cannes Film Festival
Okay,
in
so tell
France.
people about this.
Well, it was interesting that you say seeing me sitting cross-legged because that's how I sit with my bowls. And then also whenever I'm with them, and I did this morning in my meditation group, and it's a continual process. It's not like you can just manifest once and then it's done, right? You're continually working on this skill. So I've been working on it for probably like 7 years now, ever since I started working with Jack Canfield as my mentor and friend. I started working on how does this work, right? But what you're talking about with the documentary is I got a call one day to come and do an audition. I thought it was an audition for this documentary in Hollywood. And so I put on my cute little denim dress and I went down there and I thought, oh, no, audition. And then I'd come back another day. I got there and she's like, oh, no, no, no. We already chose you. It's time for hair and makeup. So I got to sit and get my hair and makeup done for 2 hours. And then we did like she said, I'm not going to come out and meet you until I do the interview because I don't like to meet people before. So I'm in this hotel room that's been turned into a studio. And then she comes out of the room and she sits down, we interview. It's really amazing. And then we go to the park to do some B-roll and B footage or whatever, and then finish the interview. And there's a horse there. Like in this public park, there's a horse. And they're like, no, and there's never a horse in this park. So it was really cool. And then I guess later it was nominated for an award at the Hollywood Film Festival. And so I got to go the same month that my book came out last April. I got to go and walk the red carpet at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. Like it was just the most surreal and amazing, wonderful thing. And then when I missed seeing myself on the big screen, but the man who did my makeup was did you see it? I'm so proud of my work. I just felt really good. I don't know. And that's my work now is like staying high vibe. I was seeing a client a couple weeks ago and, we were in the music journey. I was taking notes. I see things as my clients see them, like, right? And she said, Jesus is here. And then, I mean, I could feel it because I felt his energy come through before that. It's very, very, very big, beautiful, loving energy. And so she said, Jesus is here. And then she said, he has a message for you. And that never happens in my sessions, but she's very, very spiritually connected, been doing spiritual work for a long time. And she said, he wants you to remember why you came back. You came back for the joy, you came back to be in joy and gratitude. And so that was a reminder to me that no matter what's happening, to hold that energy, that frequency. And that is the greatest training ground that we could ever be put upon, right? Because this is the practice field. This is it. Like to hold joy and gratitude amidst this experience, right? It's been, it's expanded my capacity for everything.
As you say that, the angels just whispered, and that means that in every moment there is joy to be accessed and there are good things to be grateful for. It's just a matter of us putting the lens on that, the attention.
And that's the power of presence. That's the power of mindfulness. That's the power of meditation. And many people think, oh, meditation is contrary to, Christianity or other, and that couldn't be further from the truth. These are all ways that we can access the higher power that's within us, right? And however that looks to you is perfect and wonderful and beautiful and celebrated. And to me, that's it. The power of the mind and connecting to positivity and finding those threads of gratitude, even in the most difficult circumstances. That's the practice, right?
Well, and that was so fun to just spend the weekend
Yeah,
with
it was.
you and our other friends. And I remember there was one point at which I was like, I saw you and I was like, oh, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm trying to find this New York Times reporter. I got to talk to her about one thing. And
Yeah.
so we start walking, and the entire top floor of this hotel is one gigantic circle, like so large you could probably like speed walk laps around. And so we start walking in one part because it's a convention hotel too. So we start walking one direction, and I go, nope, Spirit just said it's the other way. So we turn around and we start walking the other way. And they're walking in, the person that you're trying to find is
Yeah.
walking into the lobby as we start to cross it. It was such an angel moment.
It was an angel moment because I said, I really wanted to find them because they came to my session and they videotaped it. And I was like, I would love a copy of that video, right? And so, yeah, you said something like, I want to go look for something in my car. And so we went to your car. As we're coming back, they were coming into the lobby too. And it was that perfect experience of manifesting, of letting go of expectation, just knowing it's going to happen. I do that with parking spots too. I know you probably do too, but we just, okay, give it up. And so we can make these little practices in our lives of manifesting and recognizing we're manifesting, and seeing numbers, repeated numbers is a sign that, hey, you're in the zone. You can put out an intention right now. What do you want to create for yourself? All for the greater good, right? And we practice those little moments, and then that helps us to build the framework in which to stay in that space in the bigger moments of life, which we all have, right? And right now, it's almost as if everyone's living a made-for-TV movie, because the people who come to me are just going through experiences you couldn't make up. Like, I couldn't make this up. Like, really, we get married on our honeymoon. He has a brain injury and forgets how to access love. Like, becomes very confused about who he is, like who other people are. You can't make that up. And then a few months later, he gets another injury of his neck and his back. Like, this is a dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul was everything I was trained in at Naropa. And it is still a huge practice of faith for me. So, just that holding of faith during the most unexpected moments of life, that's a huge lesson. And holding a higher frequency when I do that, huge. Water has been everything to me during this. The
Really?
frequency
Yeah.
piece, yeah.
Yeah. Of water. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Spirit saying to ask you, what was the top takeaway from studying at, it was an N word, Naropi?
Naropa.
Naropa.
Yeah.
And then I also want to ask too, because they've said it 3 times. What are the top 3 things? If you're listening and you don't know who Jack Canfield is, he's like the OG of OGs from back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And if you've been
Wrote
around since the
the
what?
Chicken Soup for the Souls
Oh my
book.
gosh. Well, and he was in The Secret too.
He's
And
in the
he was
secret.
talking about like, he had the moment in The Secret that I think made The Secret really successful, to
Yeah.
be honest, where he talks about writing himself a check for $1 million, which was a lot of money back in the 1990s and
Yeah.
still is today. And actually putting it on his ceiling and then
Feeling.
looking
Yep.
at it. And I think that everybody watched that and was like, okay, so I'm just going to go write myself a check and sit back and like just kind of wait for it to happen. But Jack was like, no, you got to like take the action steps. Like you have to be following all of the breadcrumbs of life because God is going to show you what to do, but you have to take action. And so I think he goes on to talk about in the movie The Secret how he attended this conference. He's talking to this woman. She's like, I know exactly how to get your book out. And it was Chicken Soup for the Soul. It was just like the first one.
So my 3 takeaways with him, you mean?
Yeah.
So at Naropa, it was all about the power of the mind. It's all about just sitting in presence, because when you're not thinking and you're sitting quietly and you're meditating, every feeling is accessible. There's only the presence is joy. It is contentment. It is contentment. It is not getting lost in your thoughts, which can create suffering, right? So at Naropa, I learned the power of presence and how that's so important to us to ascend on this journey of life. And with Jack, oh my goodness, Jack, I adore him. He's amazing. I learned about stepping to the next level with Jack. He was a mentor of mine for a long time and invited me into a couple projects, which was really exciting for me. And then I got to show him our work. We even like went and gave him a session at his home at one point with his lovely wife Inga. So for him, I learned confidence and the power of language was another big one with him. I mean, learned so much. I learned about perseverance through working with Jack and how he took his hundreds and hundreds of copies of his book to different publishers before he found the one. And the power of like owning your power, like speaking your power out into the world and speaking your vision. Because I think a lot of people doubt themselves and say, well, they second guess or they doubt themselves and say, I'm not ready for this. But if you lead with confidence and you see that each person is an opportunity for you to grow to that next level, I mean, he would say, I'm your friend. Like we talk on the phone, you can call me a friend. But part of me would be like, oh, I can't call Jack Canfield a friend because like, we don't see each other every day. Like, I don't go to dinner parties. It's not, but he's like, no, I'm your friend. You can tell people that you're my friend. And then when you talk to someone else, be like, well, I was talking to my friend Jack Canfield and he said, let that open doors for you. And I was like, what a gift, like to give that to people, that permission, not using him in any way, but like give permission that I have confidence in you. You can take this confidence out into the world of mine. It's like that idea of like borrowing my confidence. And I tell my clients this sometimes, if they don't have the belief, this came up in one of my sessions in Chicago. She said her husband had just passed away a year ago and she came to the conference because she wanted to believe and she wanted to see and she wanted to experience God and maybe see him, but she couldn't in the session. And I said, just, it will come. Borrow my belief in you, borrow my belief in the other side. And let that be strong enough for both of us. So that's kind of something I learned from him too.
And I just wrote down, and the opposite, shaming others is really robbing them of their confidence.
And it's also hemorrhaging your soul, right? Carolyn May said that when we have that judgment, those rules for other people in our lives, it's hemorrhaging our soul just as much as it is hurting them. That's a big piece of what I learned on the other side, that every encounter matters, everything. Positive, like kindness toward other humans, even if you don't know them, like acknowledgement, that is huge, like to be kind in every experience.
One of the biggest things that I took away from that conference too is there was a breakout on suicidal thoughts, and the audience knows that I've struggled with that off and on throughout my life. And I felt really encouraged to kind of get up and share what has worked for me over the years. And I had about 10 people come up after that breakout and say, oh my God, I never thought about it that way, or like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Yet one of the things that the speaker said that I took away, and I thought it was one of the most powerful things, and it just hasn't left me in the couple weeks since, is that you have to take ownership over all of your words. And those words that you speak and those words that you think, yeah, you might not be able to control all that flows into your mind, but once it's there, you can control the rumination on it. You can control what flows out of your mouth. And so I've really been praying with my angels on this, and what they said is, it's okay to have that person, like your therapist, your partner, where you kind of just open up to in order to keep current, to keep on the same page about all of your fears, your doubts, your worries, your anxieties, and everything. But then with everybody else, create this place, this just beautiful sacred environment of the words that you speak, create the sacredness of that environment and build that world around you. Ellen, there's so much that I want to go into with you. We didn't even get to cover music, but maybe you can come back on another time, and I would love to have people experience your singing bowls too. I think it's just so powerful. I get visions every time I do a sound bath.
Music is the universal language. It conveys what conscious thinking cannot even express. It's a powerful tool. Classical music in itself I can help people move into altered states where the classical music keeps them conscious enough to remember and know and direct what's happening, but also deeply into different brainwave states, right? The brainwave entrainment is a big part of my work. But yeah, I would love to talk about that. And it's just a gift and honor to be here to talk about anything and everything that comes up. And I love it. We just go with the flow.
Yes, always. Ellen, you have your book, you have your website. Tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, they can find me at wellnessmusictherapy.com. I'm also Wellness Music Therapy on Instagram. I've got my book, Waking Up in Heaven. You can find it on Amazon. Beyond the Grave is also on Amazon. It's streaming. It's a great documentary.
Yay! Oh, amazing, Ellen. And all of us are going to be praying for Neil. I know that he's going to turn a corner. Just know that we've got a big group of prayer warriors over here, and we're all going to be keeping you all in our hearts and in our prayers.
So received. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you for being here. Oh my gosh, so fun to always get to connect.
I know. It's fabulous. Thank you so much, Julie.
Beautiful souls, before we close, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening, for walking this path of radiant energy oneness alongside me. Your presence means so much. If you feel called to go deeper, there are so many ways that we can journey together. The Angel Reiki School, the upcoming women's retreat, the Angel membership. In September, we begin a brand new course in the Angel membership called Clearly Hear Your Intuition. And in October, we're starting a course called Find Your Purpose in 30 Days. These are soul-shifting, life-changing offerings, and I would love to hold space for you inside them. You can join the Angel membership to receive these courses, or simply purchase them on their own at theangelmedium.com/membership. Or if you want to purchase them on their own, you can go to theangelmedium.com/shop. And now let's take a moment together. I want you to take 3 deep breaths in and out. With each breath, feel love moving through you. Ask your angel the question or questions that are resting on your heart, and then listen. Their whispers arrive as intuition, as knowing, as peace. Friends, if you long to hear your angels more clearly, don't forget I've got a course for this coming up in September where you can really start to hear your intuition more clearly. I'll walk you through step by step. Until next time, friends, breathe, trust, and know that you are never alone. Your angels are always, always, always with you. Love you.